Hi everyone, welcome to another webinar from SQL Maestros. Today's topic is statistics. This is one of my favorite subjects because it has to do a lot with query tuning and optimization. Quickly about myself, my name is Amit Bansal. I have been working with SQL Server for about 25 years now. I am also a Microsoft Certified Master of SQL Server. And I have done quite a few things around SQL Server, primarily performance tuning and optimization. Over the last 20 years, I've worked with more than 200 clients fixing performance issues. I do two things. One, I do a lot of consulting around SQL Server, and again, the areas are performance tuning and optimization, fixing server issues, performance issues, tuning queries and stored procedures, identifying bottlenecks, where there is a performance issue, why there are slowness, etc. And then I take all of those learnings and package them into self-paced learning videos. So on SQLmaestros.com, you will find live masterclasses, masterclass recordings, video courses, hands-on labs, lab kits, lot of learning solutions. Many of them are free, some of them are paid. So I package all my real world learnings into those learning solutions. And also on YouTube, which is SQLmaestros.com, which is youtube.com/SQLmaestros, you will find a lot of tutorials and demos around SQL Server, more than 200 as of this recording. So these are the two destinations that you should keep in mind, which is the YouTube channel, youtube.com/SQLmaestros, and SQLmaestros.com, where you will find a lot of learning solutions from me. All the relevant links are there in the chat window, and there are some social links as well so that you and I can stay connected. Make sure you subscribe to our newsletter or connect with me on Twitter, Facebook, LinkedIn, wherever you are comfortable. Okay, so let's get started with today's session. Today's topic is statistics, and we are right in the folder statistics September 2023. Here is the file. Let's double click on the file statistics September 2023.sql, and of course you will have the resource given to you as part of this webinar recording. So this answers one of a very common question that keeps coming across. All our webinars are recorded and are made available on SQLmaestros.com. All you have to do is just go to the webinar section. Some of them are free, some of them are very nominally priced, and up to you how you wish to subscribe. I'll talk about that a bit later. Let's first get into the content. So many of you who might be new to SQL Server or new to this topic statistics, just let's have a quick introduction as to what statistics really are. So statistics in general is data about data. Now you have your table with millions of rows and you have so many different columns, dozens of columns. Statistics are created on that data and it is column specific. That's very important to keep in mind. You might have statistics on one column or a set of one or more columns. And as I said, it's the metadata. It is data about data. It primarily helps the SQL Server optimizer in cardinality estimation. Now, if this term cardinality estimation is becoming a bit overloaded, let's just simplify it. It helps the optimizer to decide the estimated number of rows that can meet your query. So let's say you have a query, a simple select statement, select from this table where let's say first name is equal to Amit. Now, when you submit this query to SQL Server, the optimizer, optimizer is that black box which is responsible to create an efficient execution plan. It does a lot of things. It does a million things. And one of those things is to decide to estimate the number of rows that should match or that might match your filter, your predicate, which is where first name is equal to Amit. So it wants to do that estimation. Because that estimation is so critical, based on that estimation, it takes further decisions as to what iterators to deploy or what execution plan should be created. So it is very critical that that estimation is accurate or close to accurate. very if we put this in a very real life metaphor, just to explain some of you who are really new to the subject, and allow me 2 minutes to do that, is let's say you want to throw a dinner party for your neighbors and you live in a huge society. Let's say there are 1,000 families. Okay, I'm just making it up. There are 1,000 families in your neighborhood and in the vicinity, that area where you live. Now you want to figure out what kind of cuisine they would like to have at the dinner. So it might be Italian, it might be Mongolian, Chinese, Indian, and a lot of different cuisine options are there, but you do not know what they might like or dislike, what their choices are. Now it's impractical for you to go to each family and ask them what kind of food would they like to have. So what you do is you do a basic survey, right? Assuming you have the bandwidth, you can actually go and talk to each family and each family member. But let's say you don't have that much time, you don't have that much bandwidth. So you might decide, okay, you're not going to reach out to all 1,000 families, but let's say you want to reach out to at least 100 families. That's the number you keep in mind. And then you go to those 100 families and, you ask around what they wish to have at the dinner, what their preferences are. Based on the data that you record, based on the responses that you get for that so-called survey, you decide, okay, I'm going to, let's say if there are 2,000 people attending, I'm just making it up. Let's say out of those 1,000 families, you have 2,000 individuals that are trying to show up at the party. You decide, okay, I'm going to keep 400 plates of Italian, I'm going to keep 500 plates of Chinese, I'm going to keep 1,000 plates for Indian food, etc., etc. So what you have done is a kind of a survey, and you have recorded that data, and then based on that data, you're doing some estimation. So the data that you record is called as stats, the statistics. Exactly like that, when you have your table with millions of rows, and when you send queries to extract data from that table based on certain predicate, based on certain filter, then SQL Server Optimizer has to do estimation. And that is why statistics are so critical. It's funny that, sometimes we don't deal much with statistics. All we do is create indexes, and indexes will in turn create statistics, or statistics are automatically created by default. So a lot of things happen in the background, and you see this awesome performance and the result and a perfect, so-called perfect execution plan. But behind the scenes, the real hero are statistics. Okay, so with this very quick introduction about statistics, now let's see how they're created, how you can update them, how you can drop them, and let's go a little deeper into statistics data and see what SQL Server is exactly storing about your data. Okay, so we're using AdventureWorks 2016 for the purpose of demo. Let's drop this table if it exists. Okay, it doesn't, no problem. There is a table here called person.person, right? And this table has, typical columns like first name, middle name, last name, email address, prefix, etc. So we're going to make a copy of this table, and we're going to call this as person2. Let's execute this. And now you have a heap. So we just created a copy of the table with 19,972 rows, just to be precise, and will approximately, I'll refer to this as 20,000 rows. Now that the table is created, this is a heap, right? A heap is a table which has no indexes. It might have statistics, right? But does not have a clustered index. That's technically to be accurate. A table without a clustered index is a heap. A table might have a non-clustered index. It might have a bunch of statistics. It's still a heap until the point it has a clustered index. Now I want to check whether it has any statistics or not. I can use a system stored procedure called sp_help stats. Supply the name of the table, and there's just another parameter. Who cares what that is right now? Okay, let's go and execute that. It says the object does not have any statistics or indexes. Mind you, this is important. It says, it also tells you that it does not have indexes. We'll come to that a bit later, how indexes are related to statistics. Okay, now We don't have any statistics, fair enough. And I talked about, right, when you send your query to SQL Server wants to use statistics. And you may have heard about auto create stats, auto update stats, and all of those are turned on by default. Now I have a statement in front of you which says select star from person.person2. Okay, so we have this heap. This is the first query that we are firing against this table, and we are sending it to SQL Server, and it says select star from person.person2. Now my question to you is, there are no statistics right now. So when I execute this query, will SQL Server automatically create a few statistics, one or more statistics when we execute this query? Your responses in the chat window. Okay, let's wait for some responses. I repeat the question. The question is, when we execute this query, will SQL Server automatically create statistics? Okay, let's just wait for 10 seconds for some responses to come in. Don't give maybe, your answer could be yes, it will create statistics, or no, it will not create statistics. I'm waiting for some more responses. Yes, thanks, some responses are coming in. Okay, mixed responses. All right, let's see if this for ourselves. So let's go and fire this statement. This is the first query against this newly created table person.person2. Let's go and execute this. And what you see is, yes, you get the data out. And if you look at the status bar below, 19,972 rows, all of it. Now let's go and check, did SQL Server create statistics before the execution of the query? So let's go and execute this, and it says this object does not have any statistics or indexes. Now you might assume that, okay, I have turned off auto create statistics. Now just for the unversed, SQL Server has these two settings, okay, at the database level. Auto create stats and auto update stats. Both of them are turned on by default. And as the name suggests, as the property name says, that SQL Server will automatically create statistics and automatically update statistics. Of course, there has to be some triggering points there, some triggering action, which will result in creation and update of statistics. Now, you might assume that I've turned them off, but no, I have not turned them off. Everything that you're seeing right now in SQL Server here on my VM on this instance is all default. So they are on by default. So that's the first thing. The second thing is, now, this being said, why did SQL Server not create any statistics? Well, the answer to that is, did you ask for any filter here? Was this query, did it have any predicate? No, it did not have any predicate. All you told SQL Server, just give me all the data. Now, if you ask SQL Server that, give me all the data, it does not need any statistics. All it has to do is just go to the storage, fetch all the pages that belong to that table, and render that data to the client. That's pretty much it. This is probably one of the easiest queries SQL Server can handle. It does not really require any optimization. Also, in technical terms, this is called as a trivial execution plan or a trivial query. Select star from the table, just give me all the data. So no statistics really required. And that is why SQL Server did not take any pain, any botheration to create any statistics. And technically also, no statistics could be created, because as I mentioned to you, is statistics is based on column data, on the attribute, the values that you have in the column, the values that you have in the attribute. At this point, you have not put any attribute in any predicate. All right, now let's tweak the query a bit. Select star from person.person2 where last name is equal to Bansal. Now, the moment you do this, and I'm not going to ask this as a question because all of you know the answer. The moment you do this, will SQL Server now create statistics automatically on last name? That's the question. Okay. So let's go and execute this. And when you do this, you of course get 0 records because there are no individuals in this table with last name equals to Bansal, but that's fine. It could be an empty result set. But did SQL Server create statistics on last name? Let's go and check SP help stats and ask SQL Server. Yes, it did. So how did this work? when you sent the query to SQL Server, before executing the query, or even I would say even before the attempt to create the execution plan, it first goes up and looks up statistics objects, and it found out that there are no stats object on last name because last name was the requirement. It goes and creates a statistics object on last name, and then once the statistics are created, stats data is prepared. That data is used by the optimizer for the purpose of estimation. Now, for the purpose of estimation, I should elaborate that a little more. So if I select this and let's turn on actual execution plan, the shortcut to that is Control M. Let's go and execute this. Now the stat is already there, that. So let's go into the execution plan. It's a table scan because it's a heap. So a heap, when you do a select star, and even if you have applied a filter, there are no indexes, it's going to give you a table scan. Let's take the cursor over here and let's look at the estimation. So actual number of rows for all the executions. So actual number of rows returned is 0. You have seen that. Number of rows read, because it's a table scan, it had to touch every row. So it really read 19,972 rows. But the most important data item here for you is the estimated number of rows, the estimation that it did, which is 1. Mind you, estimation will not be 0, estimation will be 1 here. That's the default as I see in most cases, but I just don't want to really be super technical here in terms of accuracy, whether it could be 0 or 1. But anyway, estimation here is 1, and that's the kind of the lowest estimation that you could get, which means SQL Server is doing a fair job here in terms of cardinality estimation, in terms of the optimizer estimation, that really nothing could be returned, just 1 row or 0 rows. So we're all good. So estimation is working. Okay, we'll come to these kind of analysis a little later. All right, so we have seen that one stats object was created and it gets some kind of a system name. And if you look at, the number there, okay, WA there stands for Washington, and then you have sys, and then you have 000 at the end, 7 because 7 here means the 7th column. Last name is actually the 7th column in the order of attributes on the table. So you have 7 and then you have some hexadecimal value out there. Some of you are laughing, right? Because you heard me saying WA stands for Washington. Did I just make that up? No, I didn't make that up. I kind of read that, and I kind of even confirmed that with a few people in the product team. So they did confirm me that this automatic name given to the system object created, they just prefixed it as WA because the team is based out of Washington, based out of Redmond. Redmond is in Washington, yeah. So that's where it is. Anyway, nothing very important from a performance tuning perspective, but that's the name of the object that is created. Now you want to get some more information about the stats object. And back in the days, you just had this stored procedure sp_help stats. Now there is a DMV, which is DMDB stats properties. Okay, DMDB stats properties, and here I am now trying to apply. Okay, so what are we doing? Okay, this is this is the DMF there. Okay, sorry. So you have a dynamic management function here, DMDB stat properties. You're applying this function to the system catalog sys.stats, and then you filter on this object person.person2. Let's go and run this, and you will get a lot of metadata, not a lot of metadata, some metadata about this stats. So this is the name of the statistics object. This is when it was last updated. This is the table. This is the ID. Fair enough. Couple of important things for you. First things first, total number of rows. So it knows, stats object knows that the total number of rows are 19,972. Rows sampled. So it did not do a full sampling. It did a partial sampling, and it sampled 8751 rows. Friends, this is very similar to the sampling that you did. Instead of going and visiting all the 1000 families, you decided to visit only 100 families. That is what we call as sampling. Okay, so the default sampling here was a 8751 for SQL Server, because this stats was created automatically, and this stats was not created by the virtue of creating an index. So it does this default sampling, which is not a full sampling. Now you can already sense it, right? If SQL Server is automatically creating statistics and it decide to do full sampling, it might take some time. This table is relatively very small, just 20 grand rows, 20k rows. Imagine if this was like 2 billion rows, and if and you ran a query and SQL Server did a 100% sampling, it would take a lot of time to sample 2 billion rows and create stats data out of it. You know, there's one another important column here called modifications. I'm not talking about unfiltered and filtered rows here, maybe later. Modifications, which is 0 right now. So the name of the column is actually not modification, it is modification counter. I just kind of put an alias to that, which is modifications, which says 0, which is right now you have not done any changes to this data from the point this stats was created. So from the point the stats were created, we have not filed any update statement and no change was done to this data. Friends, when we say this data, what do you mean? Do you mean the entire table data, or do you only mean the data that is there in the last name column? Yes, your answer is in the chat window. Are we talking about the entire data? Okay, let's ask a question. So if I update a few first names, will this modification counter increase? Answers in the chat window, yes or no. Okay, when if you're hitting the bullseye, yes, of course, this modification counter will not increase, because this statistics that you are seeing is created on last name. I want to iterate this again. Stats object, statistics is just not generally on the entire table data, it is on specific attributes, and this one is on last name. So if you are making some updates to any other attribute, modification counter will just remain 0. This will change only if you make changes to last name attribute. All right, we have done this, and you can see stats objects being created. And okay, alter database, this is the command auto update statistics on or off. This is for a specific database. This is a database level setting. I just wanted to show the command to you, so you could either say on or off, and right now of course it is on. Now let's go one step further, just to expand whatever we have learned, and this will serve as a summary also. And now let me ask you a question. I want to fire this statement now, this query. Select start from this table where first name is equal to Terry, middle name is equal to Lee, and last name is equal to Duffy. What do you expect? How many stats object will SQL Server create now? Finally, at the end of the execution of this query, how many total stats will you see? What do you say? Okay. Responses in the chat window. I want to expand my question. Now, many of you know that there is already a stats object on last name. Now, I'm sure you're thinking, of course, now we have first name and middle name. So ideally, SQL Server should be creating more statistics on first name and middle name. My question to you is it going to create a stats object where it's going to combine first name and middle name? Or is it going to combine first name and middle name and last name, all three together? And then it will land up having two stats object, one on last name and the other one on a combination of all three columns. What do you think will finally happen? Responses in the chat window. And that's why I put two columns instead of just first name. I wanted to put middle name also, because I want you to understand what happens behind the scene with auto create stats. Okay, responses. You could just just write down what you think will happen. Will it create more stats individually, one for each column, or will it create a multi-column stats? Finally, it will have just one stats. It will automatically drop last name and will have just one stats on first name, middle name, and last name. What do you think? Okay, we'll wait for 10 seconds while your responses come in. Okay. Thank you for responses. Thanks for brainstorming. Okay, a lot of responses. Let's see. Let's go and execute, and you can see for yourself whether your answer was right or wrong. Let's go and execute this. You get the data out. Thankfully, now there is at least someone with Terry Lee Duffy. Okay, let's go and do SP help stats on this table. Let's go and execute. And yes, what do you get? You get first name, middle name, and last name was already there. So what SQL Server has done is created two additional stats object, one on first name and the other one on middle name. Now what you see here is, look at the column numbers there, right? 5, 6, 7. So first name is the fifth column. Sorry. Middle name is the sixth column, and seventh column was last name. That was what do we conclude from this? The most important conclusion is, when SQL Server has to create statistics automatically, it will always create single column stats. Always keep this in mind. SQL Server will never automatically create multi-column statistics. It will always create single column statistics. This is a very, very important learning, because as we move forward with the demo and the content, you will see when we create indexes, we have options of creating single column indexes and multi-column indexes. There things will change a bit. So for the time being, you know that when SQL Server will automatically create stats, it will always create single column statistics. Now let's go and ask our system catalog. Select this, click on execute here, and you can now see the metadata for all the three statistics that you have, right? So 2, 3, 4 stats ID, all of them on person 2, same amount of row sampling, etc. This is the stats object name that you saw when were they last updated, and modifications again is all 0. We haven't filed any update statement as yet, so modification is all 0. All right, so now tricky stuff, auto update. So part 1 of today's content, today's demo is complete, and hopefully you're understanding where we are going. We just did a very basic level introduction to statistics object. We understood what stats object are, where does it help, how it helps the optimizer to perform an estimation. That estimation results in creating an efficient execution plan, right? That's the final goal. That's the final objective. You also saw how statistics are created automatically. Okay, before we move on to the next demo, friends, I just want to quickly make you aware of, I talked about SQLmaestros.com just at the beginning of the webinar. So here is SQLmaestros.com, the website in front of you. Lot of learning content out there, and as you keep scrolling from top to bottom, do spend some time with the website so that you know what all we have to offer right here. So you could see we have health check service, performance tuning service. These are my consulting engagements that I do with companies, and then I bring all those learnings into self-paced learning solutions like video courses, masterclass recordings, webinars like these. Of course, there are lab kits and hands-on labs, live lab practical learning solutions, etc. I just want, and of course the latest videos are up here. You can watch them on YouTube, or you can watch them here as well. Latest updates show up here, and you can subscribe to the newsletter here. So that's the SQLmaestros.com quick introduction. I want you to pay special attention to the upcoming masterclass that we have announced in the month of December. So that's about a few weeks from now. So if you jump over to the SQL Server Performance Tuning Masterclass, click on Learn More, you would land up here. And this is a 40-hour deep dive training on SQL Server Performance Tuning live class. And this is going to be 4 hours each day, and we do 2 consecutive weeks from Monday to Friday. So 1 week Monday to Friday, and then second week Monday to Friday. We're doing it in the month of December. that is week 1 and week 2. Be aware of this. You should opt for this masterclass if you really want to dive deep into SQL Server architecture, performance tuning, and query optimization. Most people who come to these classes are developers and DBAs who want to really go deeper into SQL Server, and most of them are sponsored by their companies, just to call out. When you scroll through this entire thing, you should take a look at the list of modules, the topics that we are covering, right from architecture to CPU performance tuning to IO performance tuning to TempDB to memory to concurrency in transaction to query plans, indexes, statistics, query tuning, plan caching, extended events, baselining and benchmarking, and SQL Server new features in the latest versions of SQL Server. So lot of exhaustive content, real world demos, lot of deep dive stuff. And the best part is, when you register for this class, of course you are attending live, but the entire class is recorded and you get access to the recordings for a lifetime. So I'm going to repeat that. Yes, you get the recordings for a lifetime. I know there are a lot of self-paced learning solutions on the internet where you get annual subscriptions or 2-year subscription, etc., etc. No. On SQLmaestros.com for the community, anything that you subscribe here or anything that you buy here will be given to you for a lifetime. So either way, even if you're not able to attend a few classes online, you still get access to the complete recording for a lifetime. Now, the link to this masterclass is there in the chat window. After the webinar is over, take some time, have a look at it. And if you think it is a good fit for your learning objectives, reach out to your manager, reach out to your L&D, get yourself sponsored and get inside the class. You will love the content. All right, friends, with this, let's go back to the demo now. And now we are going to jump to the second part of the webinar in continuation to the demos that we have done. And we are going to talk about auto updates, right? How statistics are automatically updated. And there is something tricky about this. If you want to watch the remainder part of the webinar and all the remaining demos, you can subscribe to the webinar on SQLmaestros.com and get lifetime access to the recorded webinar. All you have to do is just go to SQLmaestros.com, click on the recorded webinar section and get access to all the webinar recordings. There are many of them. Some of these webinars are free and some of them are very nominally priced. So the ones that you're interested in, you can subscribe to them and get lifetime access. Now, because there are so many webinars, subscribing to each webinar might be a bit cumbersome. So we have another option, which is SQL Maestros membership. So the first link on SQL Maestros says join. If you click on that, it will bring you to SQL Maestros membership. Things are very simple. There are 2 membership levels. The first level is free, where you get access to all the free webinars and all our tutorials and demos, more than 200, 300 demos and tutorials. All you have to do is just become a free member. You're paying nothing and you get access to all of them. So you don't have to go and subscribe to each webinar individually. Just become a free member and then explore the free video lobby. So if you go to the video lobby here, there is something called as free content where you get access to all of that. But then all of us are interested in advanced content, isn't it? And that is where premium membership comes into play. So the webinars that are paid, and there are many advanced tutorials and demos. If you want access to all of them, you can become a premium member and pay a nominal price, which is annual membership. Once you do that, you can explore the premium video lobby. If you go to the premium video lobby from here, or just go to the video lobby and click on premium content, you can see all the paid webinars and all the advanced tutorials and demos and get access to all of them with your annual membership. Anyway, choice is yours. There's a lot of content on SQLmaestros.com, and you can also explore the YouTube membership level as well. So you have free content on YouTube channel, and you can also join and become a member of SQL Maestros on YouTube, where you can pay a monthly fee, get access to all the paid webinars and advanced content. So in summary, You can go to SQLmaestros.com and become a member, or you can become a member on YouTube also. Becoming a member on SQLmaestros.com turns out to be a little cost effective with the annual membership in comparison to YouTube monthly membership. But anyway, choice is yours, whichever platform you wish to use. Happy SQL.